the stage. Hi everyone. I didn't think that bio will be so long when I wrote it, but thank you for the introduction. So my name is Doris. I'm really happy to be here and to talk to you about Challenge 22, which is the project I've been involved with for the past 5 years as a community and marketing manager, and also as the project manager of the Romanian version of it, which is called Start 22. So what is Challenge 22? As you might have guessed, it's an online vegan challenge program. We have been running since 2014, so 11 years now, and we are having an international branch that is running challenges in languages such as English or Spanish, but also local versions of the challenge adapted to the culture and the needs of a certain geographical area, such as the Romanian one. The presentation will mostly be based on the international challenge and how it works, but I'm more than happy to dive into the particularities of the Romanian one during the talk that will follow, so stay tuned. The challenge wanted to be a joyful example of veganism, to promote it and to normalize vegan food and animal rights issues. There is a video, I'm not going to play it because I think I will run out of time, but it basically shows us, the vegan challenge mentors that are acting like good vegan fairies, being there for every new vegans that are trying to experiment with this lifestyle and guiding them through their every step. And we're doing this by using mainly online platforms that are very easy for people to access, such as social media or other messaging apps. We are adapting it to the times we're living in and also to the local necessities of certain countries when we choose that. And within these groups that we are forming on the platforms, we are offering lots of daily tips and recipes, and of course a daily challenge that's structured in a way that's very easy for someone who just started with veganism to make the transition. So we give basic information on how to replace meat or eggs or dairy, or how to deal with your friends and family, or what to do when you want to go and eat at a restaurant and you just started with veganism. And all of this amazing work is done by our mentors, by our vegan volunteers. We have managed to develop our own training system that we called a mentoring school, and that's really adapted to the necessities of our project. So we make sure that the volunteers we have are really good with nonviolent communication, as well as good at filtering information to make sure we offer the participants the best sources to trust. As well as vegan dietitians, because we are trying to play it really safe when it comes to the nutritional point of view and offer nutritional advice that has been researched or approved by registered dietitians. As I've said, the project has a global reach as well as local versions, and it's fully volunteer powered. Of course, that among our core values are, first of all, compassion for the animals, the planet, and people, but also community, because, as we know, community makes change easier. Change is much easier when we do it together. And when we support these people in a positive and empathetic way, lots of people that are first trying to become vegan are pretty scared of veganism and vegans, and for this reason we are really trying to create a safe and supporting environment. But we're also trying to stay assertive, so we're always going to guide them back to veganism. We understand that they struggle, but we're always going to come back with the best vegan solution for them and work together to see how we can improve that. It's also accessible because it has been and it is free for everyone who wants to join, and the information we provide, it's really easy to digest. And as I've mentioned, it's also science/evidence-based because we collaborate with vegan dietitians for the nutritional information that we offer. So the title of the presentation said 1 million. Unfortunately, that's not valid anymore. Now we have 1.1 million participants that have joined in the 11 years of our existence. This coming from the international branch, but also more than 450,000 people coming from our community participants, because we are supporting local communities, local NGOs that want to develop their own local challenges and adapt it to their own needs in countries such as Lithuania, Indonesia, Serbia, or Denmark, and of course Romania as well. And I mentioned these countries because my colleagues from these countries are present at the conference, so if you think that you can relate and want to learn about their experience, I can put you in contact with them. And this project is, of course, made possible because of all of our amazing volunteers. Only this year we are having 400 volunteers who are helping us run this project, but there have been thousands and thousands in total helping us run the thousands of challenge rounds. So, of course, when it comes to this kind of project, we're also concerned with how effective it is. And for this reason, we paired in the past with Phonalytics, which is a great tool. If you don't know about them, please do research them and collaborate with them. They did a pilot study in 2020 that showed that, for example, 52% of the participants were still fully vegan 2 months after completing the challenge, or that nearly 90% had reduced their consumption of animal products. They also have another study this year that was made on vegan challenges in general, and that showed that long-term impact increases when paired with follow-ups, community, and culturally inclusive design, and that's exactly what we're trying to offer people with what we're doing. We are sometimes also running internal service. We had one last year within the Spanish branch, also with the help of analytics. And this one showed that after the challenge, the number of people reported not consuming meat doubled from 16 to 32%. But for me, a lot of the effectiveness is shown in the feedback that we are receiving from our participants every day, every week, and every month. And I'm just going to read one to you that I find it really summarizes well what we're trying to achieve with this project. And that says, I enjoyed the challenge immensely. It gave me the support I needed as I started my new path. Each day was planned so that I could easily achieve the daily goal. This gave me a sense that I could do this. The mentors were very compassionate, dedicated, and caring, and all of my questions were welcome. They were truly an inspiration to me. So we've been running this for 11 years, and that means, of course, that we learned some lessons in the meantime. The first one would be that people do share the same needs and concerns when they first try to go vegan, and among these are being actually unsure of what to eat, having nutritional doubts, but also a lack of support, and we're really trying to tackle all of this through what we're offering. Another key was the fact that community is really, really important, and having someone there guiding you through every step really matters. We are also offering a so-called personal mentor, so for someone who wants, there's a mentor that's assigned just for them that will guide them through the entire challenge. And I feel that's really important because we live in a world where coaching is very popular and usually costs a lot, but we are doing this for free. And of course, just be compassionate, but stay assertive, because in the end, it's all about them, the animals we are all trying to help. So this being said, if you are a part of an NGO or establishing one and you feel that you would like to run a local challenge in your country, please do scan the QR code that will lead to our website, or email me or find me these days, because we are offering full access to the Challenge 22 program content, as well as comprehensive training for you and for your team, and ongoing guidance and support throughout the year, and of course, the eligibility for your NGO to get a grant of up to $10,000 a year, so you cover some of your costs. And I'm going to go back to the QR code in a second, but I'm just going to take a moment to thank all of the thousands of volunteers that have helped us throughout the year, because this can be possible and can be done without them. But also thank you and all the activists that are here and that are trying to make this place a kinder world for the animals. Thank you.
I want to thank you, Doris, for such a good presentation. And the next talker will be Morgan Janowicz. She is a member of the board and partnership coordinator at Green Ref Institute, vice-president of the Safe Food Federation, coordinator of the plant-based school program. She represents Green Ref Institute as a EU Climate Pact ambassador. She supports the organization of the Safe Food Forum and European Vegan Summit. Plant-based school was supported already by more than 60 counselors around Poland in partnership with people of influence, journalists and companies. So welcome to the stage.
Thank you very much. And if we can start with the great video about our latest documentary movie, Dining on Despair, which won international awards.
Ktoś kiedyś wymyślił, że powinniśmy sobie uczynić ziemię poddaną i wykorzystać tak naprawdę wszystko, co jest dookoła do własnych potrzeb.
67% biomasy kręgowców dzisiaj to są krowy, świnie i kury. Żyjemy w świecie, w którym dzikich zwierząt już praktycznie nie ma.
80% gruntów rolnych na całym świecie jest przeznaczane nie na jedzenie dla ludzi.
Zaanektowaliśmy te miejsca po to, żeby hodować rośliny, żeby nimi karmić zwierzęta, które później my jako ludzie zjadamy.
Ogromna ilość toksyn, jaką wytwarza ten przemysł, to jest skażenie gleby, to jest skażenie atmosfery.
Największą ofiarą tego systemu są zwierzęta.
To, co trafia na nasz talerz, jest okupione potwornym cierpieniem istot, o które my powinniśmy się zatroszczyć.
So this is what we do. We bring important topics to people by picture, by bringing data, by connecting people, experts, activists, NGOs, councillors, local communities, to bring this topic of the food system transition. So I do represent Green Ref Institute, which is a very first and only think tank, vegan think tank in Poland. And if I can have my presentation. Thank you very much. So yeah, we started with Dining on Despair, which is our third documentary movie, which won many international awards, also during the Green Film Festival as the best short documentary movie. And as Green Ref Institute, we base our activities on 3 pillars. This is education. We do it through documentary movies and plant-based school program, which will be, I will tell you more about this in a bit, but also through professionalization, which is European Vegan Summit. And just yesterday, we finished our 4th edition, which brought together 800 people from all around the world, 9 sessions, 60 speakers from all around the world, and 3 keynote speeches. And mobilization through Future Food for Climate, which we started Future Food for Climate in 2021. It consists of more than 100 civil society organizations from Poland, from bigger and also smaller cities all around Poland, because we want to bring local communities together to have a real talk about the need for food system transition. And just this year, in March 2025, we started Safe Food Federation, which is a professional next step of the Future Food for Climate. So let's imagine, for those of you who are not familiar with how Poland looks like, let's imagine we are in the primary school in Poland, we're children, we want to eat something, we're on the vegan diet because of allergies, because of beliefs, religion, or some other reasons, but we are not really able to do it because of the Ministry of Health, because they are telling us through the law that we are obliged to consume milk and meat. And to add to that, if you're not familiar with the European Union, we have also the EU school scheme, which is bringing to children milk that comes from cows. And again, there's no alternative. So if you're a plant-based if you're a vegan. You are being excluded by the government, by the European Union. So this is the reality that we are facing now. And this is why, as Green Refi Institute, 2 years ago, we started plant-based school to make possible the change, to make it possible for children in the kindergartens, in primary school, everywhere in the country, to eat plant-based meals, to make it possible to eat healthy, to eat sustainable food, and to follow your beliefs, to take care of your health, climate, and of course, animals. So everything started 2 years ago, and we are operating with the project at 3 levels, starting from the local, going to the national, and up to the European level. And we do it through different activities. So we conduct debates. We connect local communities through some local events in the libraries, in the local activity centers. We bring local experts to talk about food system, to talk about the climate, how it is influenced by the food system production. And we do it to bring the food in the center of every single debate. We're present everywhere, in the Polish Parliament, in the European Parliament, with councillors, everywhere where it is possible. We go there and we say, hey, it's time to change. It's time to have access to plant-based food in schools, in kindergartens. So plant-based schools consist of very simple 10 points. It's all about the knowledge, it's all about education, it's all about creating this understanding, creating strategies that give you the responses for the challenges of the 21st centuries. And it's all about collaboration, starting from the local communities, teachers, pupils, experts, and so on. So plant-based schools is 10 points that are very simple, and we are going to decision makers, and we are presenting them real data that we have collected. So we did a research about what is given on the plates of our children in schools in different cities and different regions in Poland. And we can clearly see that in some schools, even more than 80% of meals consist of meat. Some schools do not have the possibility to even if you have allergy, to prepare for you a proper meal. So some children, there's a percentage of children who are attending schools, they're sitting in schools for 8 hours without meal, without food. So this is what we're fighting. We're fighting the system that is unjust. But through those 2 years, we did gather a great support, starting from the local level. And this is, I can already say, this is more than 50 councillors. We have already support of 60 councillors around Poland, from smaller and bigger cities, starting from Warsaw, Poznań, Kraków, Mikołów, Katowice, and so on, so on. You can visit the website roślinnaszkoła.pl, and there's a whole list of councillors and those who want to support plant-based school. We of course have also support of the members of the European Parliament, members of the Polish Parliament, and we also presented the petition to the Minister of Health, which is a call, change the regulation that is now not making it possible to consume fully vegan meals in our schools. We have also gathered the support from the ombudsperson, Polish ombudsperson, who also sent a letter to the Minister of Health saying that it is not right that children are being excluded because they want to consume vegan meals in schools. So we do it from different ways. We use different spectrums of activities to make sure that anywhere where is the possibility to talk about food system, to talk about the just food system, sustainable food system, plant-based food system, we are there with a plant-based school. And we also, besides of the documentary movies, we also producing our own data through a plant-based school planner, so which was prepared by Dagmara Szastak, and with experts from different grounds of expertise. Plant-based school planner is a ready tool to use in every school in Poland or outside of Poland. You have ready meals that support all the dietary needs of children. Those meals can be prepared in schools. They're tasty. They use local food. They're seasonal. So everything you need is already there. And we are reaching out to schools, to counselors, to local communities, to different organizations with the ready tools to use. You can also visit Bezpieczna Żywność SafeFood.org, which is our latest tool where you can gather also in English the latest news, the latest updates, starting from the local, going to the national, and up to the European level, all again about food system, about the system that should be just, all about changing the system, bringing people together, having a real conversation, real talk, and doing everything what we can, again, together. And there's also Safe Food Charter that was started this year. This is our next tool. We're bringing our activities even further. We want to bring to the table schools, cities, whole cities, businesses, and so on. Everything to make them realize that they can make this one step further. They can bring this change to the table. And we are also preparing our fourth movie, and its premiere going to be this October. We'll have English translation. You can check every single movie of ours, starting from Vegan Warsaw, going to the Dining on Despair, and the fourth one. Everything is online on YouTube. So if you're very curious about food system transition, how we do it in Poland, how we do it nationally, locally, please do check it. Once again, I do represent Green Ref Institute, the very first vegan think tank from Poland, and that was Plant-Based School. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Morgan, for this amazing presentation. And the next person is Darlene Martinez. She is the Latam Community Coordinator for Plant Future, where they focus on building coalition of changemakers committed to transforming food system through plant-based advocacy. Their work centers on supporting university students in developing their activism, leaderships, and professional pathways aligned with value of sustainability, equal and justice. With a background in feminist and queer arts education across the US and Mexico, Darlene brings a deep commitment to cultural relevant community-rooted strategy that uplift the next generation of movement leaders. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you for that generous introduction. Oh, gracias. I'm very, very excited to be here. As the introduction said, my name is Darlene Martinez. I'm coming here from Mexico. I am the LATAM community coordinator and as well leading our curriculum development. So I'm here to tell you a little bit about Plant Futures and specifically our work in Mexico and really how we ground in culturally rooted strategies for plant-centered food futures. So first of all, what is Plant Futures? So I really like to think about Plant Futures as a hub. So our focus is on students. So really our question is, how do we make sure that we're bringing in the next generation of talent into our movements, regardless of what they're studying? How do we show them that there is a space for them in the various fields, in the various categories of food systems, of animal liberation, things like that? And we like to do this through the 4 C's, which are curriculum, community, career, and culture. I'll get into these a little bit later. But something that I always like to highlight is that Plant Futures started as a student-led project while at Berkeley. Our founder and director, Sam, who is here, saw that there was a need for students to talk about plant-centered food systems in school. There wasn't anyone really addressing that. Started a course, saw that there was a lot of interest, and then it turned into Plant Futures Initiative, and then now it's a global education platform. So who is Plant Futures? We're a pretty lean team. We're 3 full-time staff and then 3 part-time staff. What's really exciting is that even though we're a small, lean team, we've been able to reach a lot of students. So actively this year, we reached our goal of over 100 student chapters across the US, Canada, and Mexico. And this looks like about 13,000, more than 13,000 total students engaged. This means students that were either part of our professional development activities, that visited any social events, that took our courses. So it's really a great way to reach students that are just really interested in food systems, and they come into Plant Futures for a lot of different reasons, whether it's health, because they've been vegan, because they want to learn more about food, because they're in it for climate, for animal liberation, and it's a really great space to get a lot of different students from different regions and backgrounds connected. We also have a rich network of academics, of professionals, nonprofit and grassroots allies. And this is really the space where people in the movement can really give back and share their areas of expertise, and again, show students that there is a space for them in the movement. So these are some examples of what we do. I always really like to emphasize that we are intergenerational, that we are interdisciplinary. How are we making sure that we're building these intergenerational bridges? When we bring in new people to the movement, a lot of times they're excited, they want to do a lot of things, but they don't even know where to start. So this is where our rich network of professionals and academics can come in and show them what's been done, what's possible, the ways that they can interact, that they can engage. And this has been really exciting because students in our chapter network can get internships, they can get even jobs once they graduate. And again, it's a really great space for them to connect to the movement, because oftentimes they don't know who to talk to, who to contact. So it's a really great way for them to build community. Something that I'm particularly very excited about is the curriculum certification. So 2 very important things happened this year. One, Plant Futures actually launched its first University of California system-wide course. So this is a course that students across all 9 University of California universities can take. It's an online course. And in addition to that, we also launched our own certification program. And this is alongside this question of how do we make sure that us that are already in the movement, that we keep professionalizing and learning and getting better at what we're doing in food systems, and how do we share all of this? And we thought we can't wait for the universities to catch up. We know that there's always an institutional lag on issues that are relevant and that are current, and we know that food systems is something that is not really being taught in our universities, and when it is being taught, it's still in service of an exploitative industry. So how do we make sure that we're giving students the opportunity to connect with other narratives, and connecting with ways to build more ethical and more sustainable systems for our animals, for our planet, for other people. So alongside this, as I already mentioned, there's more than 104 student chapters, and these chapters do everything from social events, plant-based tailgates, to professional development activities. They lobby for their campus dining halls to have more plant-based meals, which is also something that's very exciting. We also have a lot of different events and labs. Something here that I want to highlight is the Challenge Lab. So this is actually a really cool model that has worked, where we connect students with businesses that give them a real world problem, and they work on it across a semester. And this is a way for them to get hands-on experience, and as well for the companies to also connect with students and kind of see what are the interests, and think of new and alternative ways to solve any issues that they have. And something that I think is also really important is this aspect of culture. How do we make sure that we're taking plant-based values, ethos, practices into places where students already are? How do we make sure that we center it in joy, which is something that I think is very important in our movement? How do we make sure that food is something that we're enjoying, that we're connecting with, that we're sharing, right? So why Mexico? So we are very interested in our visual ideal of Plant Futures. This is a global program, and we want to have student chapters everywhere. We want to have a network of professionals and academics throughout the world. But how do we start this in a way that is real, that is realistic? And we thought, why not Mexico? Obviously, geographically, we're very close, but there's also a lot of connections between the Mexican food system and the U.S. food system just because of, geopolitics. So how do we make sure that we're building a strategy that is relevant for students there? Just a little bit of context of Mexico. Unlike the US, where students live on campus and there's infrastructure of student clubs, in Mexico that does not exist. So how do we come into a space where students don't really have this experience of being in student clubs, but are still organizing themselves nonetheless, despite of not having these student clubs? So we come in and we really ask them what are things that they need, what are things that they're noticing. And we've seen that there's a lack of even just materials or geographically relevant information. When we talk to them about food systems and they ask me really particular questions about numbers, things like that, the only thing I can really have to show them are things about the US or Europe. So that's already a very interesting point of dialogue where I ask students, this is a way that you, as a student, as a young professional that's coming into this field, can contribute to start building out these resources in your language, for your community, for your regions. So I think that's always something really, really important when we think about the work in Mexico, is how do we make sure that we're not coming in just with information that is not relevant, that is not interesting. This is something that I also see too with the word plant-based. A lot of the traditional Mexican cuisine is centered on plants. Meat is something that was brought over with the colony, so a lot of students are using words like decolonize the diet, deindustrialize the diet, eat locally, right? In Mexico, we have local markets, so people's relationship to food is very different because they often will go to the market. They'll oftentimes connect with the person who is growing the food itself. So that's already something that's very, very different from the US. So how do we make sure that we're building space for students to connect with what they have access to, instead of saying well, in the US we did this, so you do it too, right? So it's really about listening. It's really about making sure that we're giving them the space and the ownership to say, this is something that you can do for your community. What do you want to do? And oftentimes it's really challenging for them because a lot of students are used to being told what to do, especially as they're starting off in their career. So what is really nice about Plant Futures is we tell them, you are already becoming an expert in your field. The knowledge that you have gained is already valuable. Just try it. Why not? Ask us questions. What is your dream? What is your goal? Let's do it, right? And I always give them the example of how Plant Futures started. It started off with a student's idea and a student's just really intrinsic need to connect with community, right? So I think that's at the core of what we do, is really encourage students to connect with that, right? And I think it's also, in Mexico, it's a really, really interesting time where there are a lot of advances for animal rights. Just within the last year, there was 2 amendments made to the Mexican Constitution that allows for more expansive animal liberation. So that is just one example of how the shift in Mexico, it's changing. The animal rights movement, the environmental rights movement has been around for a long time. But how do we make sure that we're sharing and amplifying those stories for people that are in Mexico and also people that are in regions that are also looking to connect with people? So I think that's something that was really important for us, is how do we make sure that we're building these international bridges and that we're really supporting the work that is already being done. And it's also really been a learning journey for us at Plant Futures, is if we really want to make sure that we have an intersectional, a very expansive, diverse movement, how do we make sure that we're also giving space for people to generate from their context, from their language, from their culture, from their needs? And why is this work effective? I think at the end of the day, it gives us an opportunity to see where the areas of growth are. It's always important for us to lead with questions, really asking what is it that they need, what are they observing that is not there. And I've noticed that students are really, really engaged, but they oftentimes don't have support even from an adult in their life. There's maybe one teacher, maybe one academic coordinator, but for them, there really isn't anyone that is telling them no, if you're interested in animal liberation, you can make a career out of this. You can contribute to the movement. If you're interested in food systems, if you're interested in labor, if you're interested in the arts, right? You can apply this to more ethical food systems. There really isn't anyone showing them any examples of what that looks like. And it's really important for us to be able to give students access even just to what's being done in the movement, because it gives them opportunities to even just imagine other ways that they can grow and that they can change within this, right? And again, all of this catalyzes systemic ripples, right? If a student sees someone in their community really being engaged and coming at it from the climate space, coming at it from animal liberation, from food, it's going to open up more questions, more space for them to engage, right? So what have we learned? Again, we have to go in with questions more than statements. We have to be able to listen, and we have to be able to also be patient, right? And know that our work, and this applies to any organization, when we want to expand our work to other regions, we have to know that this is going to look like very different, and that we have to give ourselves that patience, that compassion to be able to willing to like learn and grow through those challenges. I think for me, it's been really amazing to see that there's so many people interested in the movement. And it's an opportunity for us to call those people in and also build a history of those movements in those regions. And I think that's something that's very important about what Plant Futures is doing in Mexico, is that it's also just connecting people that are already in the movements that maybe didn't even necessarily have an easier way to connect to each other, right? So it's not only students, but it's also academics, it's professionals that have been in the movement or want to be in the movement and just didn't know where to start or who to talk to. So that's why I like to think of us as a hub. So I would really encourage you to follow our work. Again, we are focusing right now in North America, but the idea is that we do expand into other regions of the globe. Again, our intention is, yes, connect with students, but we also want to learn what everyone else is doing in the space. If you're a professional, if you're an academic, you know, if you're someone that's joining the movement, what are the ways that you can contribute? What are the ways that you can share your knowledge? And even just sharing like these cross-region learnings, it's always very interesting, because even though we can have different experiences, there's always so many connections and points to work together. So these are our website, newsletter, Instagram, LinkedIn. I highly encourage you to follow us, and thank you so much for your time and your attention.
Thank you for the speech, and the next speaker is Karolina, and she is a manager of communication in Roślinijemy, Polish plant-based campaign of Animal International. She has been involved in the animal rights movement from 9 years. In Roślinijemy, she takes care of social media, traditional media, and welcome to the stage.
Thank you. So now I would, thank you. I would like to invite all of the speakers on stage with me. So we will have a short discussion about everything that has been said, maybe a little bit more in-depth questions. Yeah. So thank you all for preparing with your presentations, and thank you for all the inspiring work that you do on a daily basis. So Doris, I would like to start with a question for you, because you told us about Challenge 22 and vegan challenge format. This kind of campaign has been done in many places. I want to ask you specifically about Romania. What makes it special in Romania to run this campaign? How do you think it impacts the market? How do you think it impacts people? What generally do you think is the landscape in Romania in terms of possible solutions to make everyone eat a little bit more plant-based?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Well, where should I even start? So in Romania right now, the vegan challenge that I'm running is unfortunately one of the 2 kind of plant-based advocacy projects that exist. Beside this one, there is a small NGO running humane education and us running the plant-based challenge. But besides this, my NGO is also taking care of the welfare side, but that's pretty much it within the movement. Of course, that there's a lot of space for that, for growth. And I think that's mainly because culturally speaking, we are a people that was very plant-based centered just 1 or 2 generations ago. And from this perspective, I feel like we're living a bit of a paradox, because on one hand, when I start to talk to people about eating plant-based and going vegan, they always relate to and tell me that, yeah, but our ancestors, our grandparents have been eating meat and they are healthy and they lived a long life. And then I always go back to them and remind them that they ate meat maybe once a week and maybe 200 grams, and they were moving and they were outside the entire day, and that doesn't apply anymore. But unfortunately, I think that Romania is also dealing with a bit of a historical trauma. I'm not sure that you all know, but we had communism for 50 years, and historians say that it was probably one of the hardest in Europe. And because of this, after the revolution in 1918, I sense that there is this historical trauma and that people are really into buying, they're diving into all what the capitalistic world is offering, and that's why the animal consumption products really increased. And that's why we're also among the nations of Europe that has the highest lifestyle-related diseases, unfortunately. And that's why also people join the challenge, because enough time has passed for that generation to unfortunately develop and suffer from these conditions. And most of the participants in the challenge come to us from this perspective of health issues. And I'm really happy that we have the structure for it, and we can offer them dietitian-approved information for free and support, because unfortunately a lot of them do suffer with lifestyle-induced disease.
Yeah.
Please let me know if I can add anything else.
Oh, let's just go on so everybody has like an equal chance to speak, because we have time constraints. So thank you for the answer. I would like to go to Morgan. I really like how the plant-based school managed to reach out to you managed to get so many politicians and local governmental agents on board. Can you tell us how do you think it could apply in other countries? Do you think that other groups could kind of learn bits and pieces on that and implement it in this way, or maybe in order to support any other plant-based causes?
I think this is a very, very good question. We are already in touch with our partners from different countries, and we're already sharing the outcomes and the whole process of how it goes in Poland. Of course, there are some small or bigger differences, but I think plant-based school, and originally that is our idea, that we want to spread it. I'm not sure spreading is the good word, but we want to spread it throughout the Europe to reach different countries all around. And I think it's definitely possible. It's all about having this conversation, dialogue. It's all about going local, because from the local perspective, everything, the biggest change is actually happening from the local part, and why it is so important for us to have this support or partnership with councillors is because they are the closest to the local communities, and they understand the obstacles. They're listening to the local communities, and they know what needs to be changed. And throughout those 2 years, we've been observing a big shift in the mindset of decision makers. They can see what is already missing. So of course we have not only in Poland but all around the world globally the health crisis, of course climate crisis. We're starting to connect the dots on the map. So here are animal rights, here is climate, biodiversity, health, and so on. And they're starting to understand that we can't save our planet while also not including the food system in the debate. So this is what we've been seeing in the last few months very, very much, and we're very much looking forward to what will bring the next year. And it's especially important for us to even work harder, because there are some the parliamentary elections coming up in Poland very, very soon, sooner than we think, and we have to be even more effective. We have to have support from even more people, more councillors, more local communities, more NGOs, more pupils, more teachers, more parents. Parents are already coming to us and saying, we want to see this change. Why is it not happening? And then we are reaching out to councillors, to local policymakers, local organizations, and we're sitting together and we're talking about how we can start this change from the local community.
Thank you for the answer. It's a lot of work to connect all of those small local communities, because you basically have to go one by one, right? And well, speaking of creating community and building it, I will come back to Darlene, which is doing it in terms of universities. And I would like to learn more about how the landscape of Mexico specifically makes it harder or easier than what Plant Futures did in US at first, because it started off in US and then came to Mexico. I think that even in the landscape of Europe, many different kinds of interventions or campaigns are traveling from country to country, and they have to be readjusted. So what differs, and what do you think needed the most adjustment to make sense in Mexico?
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a very complex question. I think when we talk about students in Mexico, Mexico has a very rich legacy of very strong movements. So the institutions in the government have kind of almost this sphere of student organization. So one example was, I was talking to two students. They approached their university. They wanted to have a school garden. There was a piece of land, insignificant, in the university that was not being used. It was abandoned. And they went to the coordinator of the university and they're like, hey, we want to, students want to use this space as a garden, it's not being used. Can we use it? The university said no. They were like, okay. So what they ended up doing is they ended up taking that piece of land and actually starting their garden in spite of the university. And this is very common in Mexico, where students will oftentimes take as a protest, an economic protest, a social protest, a student protest, parts of their university, and do either workshops, community gardens, community plant-based foods. There's also another famous space in the National Autonomous University of Mexico of an anarchist Ocupa space, which has been occupied for a long time in that university and has been it has a plant-based meals that it gives out to students. So these are common examples of how work is much more challenging in Mexico versus in the US. In the US, there is like I mentioned, there is an infrastructure for student clubs, where students even in high school are very used to being in student clubs. Once they get into college, it's very normal for them. They'll join because it looks good on their resume for whatever reasons, and they're free to use the university institution. They'll even get a small stipend to do their club activities. In Mexico, there's no infrastructure. Students don't live on campus. Students have to commute. Students often have to work. And even then, they're still organizing outside of the university for whatever many different reasons. So movements around animal liberation in Mexico are very strong, but they're oftentimes in spite of the university. So it really is challenging for us, because coming from our US model, where it is, very much aligned with the university, is how do we work kind of with the university, but at the same time, just more than anything, trying to find a way to contact students in a way that's not like, okay, well, you kind of have to adhere to what the institution is saying, but is more, again, encouraging them and telling them that we're there to support them, that we're there to, give them either professional development, things like that. So that's kind of one thing. Another thing that I think is also really important is a lot of these students that are already organizing with their peers oftentimes don't see the connection between their activism and the career that they can have. So I think something about that's very important for Plan Futures is also like redignifying this idea of activism, that it's okay to get paid for it. It is okay to make a living out of it. That doesn't make you a sellout, or that doesn't make you, you know, whatever. I think it really is about showing them that there are possibilities, that they can have a values-aligned career. And that's something that in Mexico is not really talked about. Students are just wanting to go to university, you know, to get whatever job that they can and, you know, get work, oftentimes even leaving Mexico to find opportunities that work for them. So it's really about how do we make sure that they feel that they are listened to and that they could even have opportunities in their own country. So it's really about just honestly encouraging them. I think it's really about encouraging them and showing them that there are possibilities. And I think that's why it's so important to have them connect with students from other regions of Mexico, from other regions of Latin America that are also interested in these things, because they see that activism is not only like done or allowed in Europe or in the US, but it can also be possible in Mexico.
Great, thank you very much. I think it's very interesting to learn about just different parts of the world. Everything works a little bit differently, depending on the culture, depending on the area and everything. So just to wrap it up in the last few minutes, I would like to ask you, all of you, one by one, about this vision for what would have to happen to make your work redundant in a way. I'm not talking animal liberation. This is the goal of all of us, of course. Like we want the plant-based future, etc. But specifically your campaigns, what do you think would have to make it not necessary to be run, because it's already good enough? We can now focus on other important interventions, just in a different way. So what would be that thing that has to happen? Whichever one of you wants to start.
So I think I would like to refer to what was said yesterday during the European Vegan Summit by Dr. Sylwia Spurek, is that when politicians are not listening, it doesn't mean that we're not effective enough. It means that we have to knock more often, stronger, and with higher number. So what I'm trying to say is that I think it's really important to understand that this systemic change that we want, it will not happen tomorrow, and we have to be very consistent with our actions, and we have to make decision makers very uncomfortable, because those changes are uncomfortable, and we are going to stick to that. We're going to knock to the doors. We are going to come to every conference, to the Parliament, Polish, European Parliament, I don't mind, everywhere, and we're going to ask very uncomfortable questions, and we are going to request the real answers, and we are going to take them accountable.
Thank you. Doris?
Yeah, so when it comes to plant-based challenges, I think that the development of AI would make our work redundant. Of course, there won't be that human touch to it, but I think that once they have developed enough to replace a vegan mentor and even a vegan dietitian that has all the information that you need and is very well trained to answer and be there and even offer a sort of emotional support, then the work would become redundant. But the good news is we could use all of our efforts and resources to kickstart the vegan outreach and the institutional outreach, which you two are already doing in Romania. And I'm really keeping my fingers crossed to do this within the next months or years. We are working on it, and I really hope that we'll be able to kickstart that, because it's very much needed for the movement in Romania right now.
Thank you.
Wow, yeah, I mean, a lot of really great things. I think for me, I've been a teacher for more than 10 years, so I feel like I always go back to education. And I think my biggest question is, how are we teaching the youth what food systems are? Like, how do we even know what food systems are? Like, I wasn't even sure what everything that entails for a food system even just a couple of years ago. So how are we teaching people how to connect with food, what it implies to grow food, where it's coming from, all of the different practices that come around that? So I think that for all of our works in any field that we're in, I think this is something that would make our work redundant, is if from education there was actual work being done to recuperate all of the resources and all of the movements that have been happening. I mean, unfortunately, that sounds kind of idealist because, you know, education is also a very, very big sphere and where a lot of different things cross over. But, you know, having these plant-based meals, how do you connect students to, you know, eating the meal, but also, you know, what are the implications of that from their chemistry class, from their health class, from the art class? How are you talking about food in a way that's not only just coming from agriculture or the environment? How are you connecting it again to their culture, to their identity? How are you connecting it to the arts, right? I think, you know, making documentaries, making art, making songs, you know, like we said, I think culture change is very, very important, and a lot of that stems from education. So I think for all of our fields, that redundancy would come from students already know what a food systems is, you know, by the time they get to Plant Futures, you know, as a college student, and then they're able to actively, you know, be agents of change within that. But we're noticing that a lot of college students or even doctorate students that are studying these things often don't even know all of the different ways that the food system really impacts so many aspects of our lives and society. So I think education, yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. I will just add up from my point of view. In Rośliniemy, we run different kinds of interventions, and I just imagine that all of the different ones would require different thing to happen. So it would be redundant, just like Morgan said about knocking on different doors. Yeah, it's hard to imagine a government that already does everything that's necessary. But yeah, let's just keep that in mind. Imagine the future that we hopefully will get to one day, where our work is no longer necessary and we have everything that we need. With that positive like vision, let's wrap up this panel. And thank you very much for everything you've prepared and for all the work that you do on a daily basis.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.